Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your Daily Comedy News. Michael Ian Black wrote a piece for the Daily Beast and said, last January I got into a fight with Andrew Dice Clay. All right, I'm already interested, right? Last January I got a fight with Dice at a stand-up comedy club in Naples, Florida. The details of the altercation are unimportant, but at one point, Clay threatened me with violence and said, I'm going to show you who I really am. Said in his Welcome Back Cotter Brooklynese. I was like, I know who you are. You used to be a popular comedian. Love it. Andrew was booked to do the early show, me the late. Although I was never a fan, I decided to arrive at the club early to watch the second half of a set, thinking maybe I'd gotten him all wrong, and the bullying jerk face he played on stage was just an act. Turns out, no, he really is a bullying jerk face. Worse, his act sucked. It was unfocused, unfunny, and ended with him performing the same profane nursery rhymes he'd been doing for 30 years. Lest you think I'm just being a petty bitch, which I definitely am, I'm doing so in service of a larger point, right? See Michael Ian Black. There's another bullying jerkface out there repeating the same shtick he's been doing for years. Like Clay, a lot of people think he's a misogynistic jerk. Like Clay, he wears the same stupid costume he's had for decades. Like Clay, his act has grown stale and his crowd size is depleted. And like Clay, he seems angry as hell about it. Who's he talking about? Donald Trump. I'm not here for the politics of this. This is Johnny Mac speaking. I'm here for the comedy of it. And Michael Ian Black comedian says, I was surprised to realize that Trump is essentially just another road comic trotting out all his tired bits from yesteryear. Jerry Seinfeld once said in the documentary Comedian that even if you're famous, the audience will only give you a few minutes grace before they turn on you if you're not funny. Trump recently said, hello, Montana. I've been all over your state. Everything's 2 hours. When are we going to be there? 2 hours, sir. 2 hours. Michael Ian Black writes, as an observation, it's mundane. As a joke, it's non-existent, but the audience love him and they eat it up. Despite the fact that he's no longer running against Joe Biden, Trump can't help but poll the audience about which nickname for the president they prefer, Sleepy Joe or Crooked Joe. It's the equivalent of a comedian doing a Michael Jackson joke. I always thought the comparisons between Trump and stand-up comedians were insulting to comedians. A comedian works at their craft, honing jokes, cutting fat, trying to create a coherent and satisfying hour of material that entertains the audience and at times might even make them think. Trump has none of the discipline, none of the thoughtfulness, none of the material. We have a word for comics like that, hacks. Andrew Dice Clay is now a hack. So increasingly is Donald Trump. Send your letters to Michael Ian Black. Now, there must be a theme. And speaking of hacks, the Daily Beast has the headline, Hannah Einbinder is sick and tired of hack comedians. Both these pieces from the Daily Beast. Hannah was on the Last Laugh podcast. She said, I think my stand-up persona was kind of born out of aspiration. This persona is everything that I could ever want to be. People often say that doing stand-up is brave, and I disagree. I think it's desperate. I needed to do it because I felt bad all the time, and I was like, maybe this will fix it. Now, thank God, I feel much better at being myself and in my life that stand-up is just additive and not a survival mechanism. Now that her special has come and gone, Hannah says, I'm very, very proud of it. But you know, some of those jokes I've been doing for years and years and every night on stage. So while I love the material and I'm proud of it, I'm never going to say those words again, and I'm so fine with it. There's no greater feeling for me as a stand-up comedian than feeling excited about a new chunk, new section, new line. The newness is what makes me feel love for the art form. They then discussed Jerry Seinfeld's comments about the extreme left running comedy. It's ridiculous. You just have to be smart. When marginalized groups have heard every joke under the sun at their expense, it's not that they can't tell jokes, it's that they're sick and tired of hearing the hack, if you will, redundant crap that's easy and low-hanging fruit. I can just speak to my experience of being queer and being a woman and being Jewish. I actually don't have any problem with jokes at my expense or the expense of any groups I may belong to if the joke is smart. I really don't. I think everybody, especially people from marginalized groups, have to laugh to keep from crying and have to laugh at themselves, and we do. We're just asking for better material. And I think a lot of stand-up comedians are really hardened in their perspective. There's an inherent personality trait of a comic being like, this is what I think, and everybody pays to listen to me say what I think, so I'm the arbiter of what's what. So they don't want to be told they're wrong, and they don't want to have to waver and change when their work is built around having a staunch perspective on something. When you call someone out on something and they get defensive, it just shows sort of a lack of evolution. People who self-reflect and go, I wonder if they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. I can learn from that. That's actually more impressive to me. Johnny Mac, you never talk about Matt Reif. I know, all right. Cracked said you got to hand it to Matt Reif only a few years ago. He was self-funding YouTube specials. Reif said, people kept checking to see if I had an OnlyFans page, and I was getting tweets all the time being asked about it. That's when the adult-themed platform exploded, and I thought that if I named the special OnlyFans, it would be a #1 Google. Crack says, for the record, it appears Matt Reif does have an OnlyFans page. His last post earned him more than $91 in tips. A GoFundMe campaign raised $30,000 for the 2021 special. Despite only 40 people attending the taping, OnlyFans now boasts 13 million views on YouTube. Reif says, I have a very dark sense of humor that's not going to be for everybody, but millions of people love that special, including the tens of thousands of people I ran that set by in preparation for that special. It helped me find an audience that's going to be with me for a longer period of time. The only thing I regret from my last special was not putting in any crowd work. I didn't want to do any of that because crowd work was because I've become known for, which is fantastic, but it can also pigeonhole you. His current special is all crowd work. What I love about crowd work is it doesn't burn anything. It's new for every single show. It's exciting for me, and I take great pride in that because so many comedians don't switch up their set at all. Jim Gaffigan tweeted the question, is there a 12-step program for gardening? Only half joking. Jim then shared this clip. It's a little long and not all that funny, and he's showing some vegetables on what appears to be his kitchen counter. And let's listen to Jim Gaffigan for a minute. Don't hit skip. You got to sit through this. I did.
Hey, how are you? Hey, Jim Gaffigan here, and I wanted to just check in. I love gardening. It's very rewarding. I mean, it's but the harvest, like, this is just bananas. I mean, it's not bananas. That would be great. I would like bananas. But let me just show you some of what I got here. So, like, look, I like banana peppers, but, like, has anyone, I mean, no one's that much. Squash, I've never even seen someone eat this. I guess you can make those nasty noodles. Green peppers, I made chopstick salad 3 times, and my family threatened to kick me out of the house. But the eggplants, who's ever, I don't know if grocery stores have these many eggplants. And then tomatoes, by the way, none of my tomatoes look like tomatoes. They look like someone beat up a tomato.
From the BBC, telling hilarious or embarrassing stories from your personal life is something many stand-up comedians do. What about turning your periods into a laughing matter? That's what Bella Humphries has done for her show at Fringe after being diagnosed with premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD. Symptoms of the condition can include extreme mood swings, depression, and anxiety. One of Bella's jokes has already been named among the festival's best. She says sharing her experiences of PMDD on stage has been very empowering because she's been able to find the funny in some dark times. It's very personal, it's very honest, a bit raw at times, but still very funny, I think. And I've been told that by lots of other people. All right, the joke in question. I'm sure she tells it better. There are times that I feel so low, I think the only way out is to get in my car and drive as fast as I can into a tree, but I'd never be able to go through with it because I'm a feminist. I wouldn't want that legacy for female drivers. Short reviewed a few shows at the Fringe. Let's take a look. Rosemary On and On and On. They gave 4 stars out of 5. The story of her involuntary singledom is so much more than a catalog of ex-boyfriends and bad dates. Instead, it's a more personal look at her place in the universe, what drives her, and why she isn't coupled up, taking in some astute observations about the wider world along the way. She has an arm's-length relationship with self-analysis, adopting a silly voice when she mentions healing herself, as she's not really at ease with such concepts. We learn of her first encounters with posh people. They are not native to her New Zealand homeland, the dumpster fire of thoughts she's committed to her iPhone Notes app, and how Googling in incognito mode reveals your true self. She fears for the state of the self-absorbed Gen Z and bashes Taylor Swift fans for being basic. Louis Katz's show is called Bountiful. Chortle gave it 3 stars out of 5. Obviously an intelligent guy, Louis Katz's Fringe debut is a pushback against dumbing down, primarily in the reduction of every complex issue to an us versus them binary. We're the good guys, they're the Nazis, with the boundary conveniently movable. Essentially, Bountiful is a plea for more nuance, at least just the basic acknowledgement that life is not so black and white. That's true of his own stand-up, which often makes smart connections to produce rewarding punchlines, but is just as likely to feature a lowbrow penis joke. And there's no surprise in which land better, with audiences embracing gags with the least complexity, so underlining his central complaints. Love it. He has no time for the shortcuts of winning fans by posting crowd work clips, being offensive, or getting angry over some fake trivial issue. That said, he does become enraged by the semicolon. He thinks it's unworthy of its prime place on the keyboard. He expresses in a rant hilarious for its overreaction. I'm looking here. Yeah, it's right next to the L, isn't it? And the full colon is the shift. Yeah, that does seem weird. Counterintuitive thinking yields the best rewards, such as his bit on the one sex act where consent makes it worse, a routine that started with what the other Lewis in comedy got up to. Other close to the edge material, such as jokes about his wife's weight, have a trickier passage. Sounds like a fun show. And that's your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. The Facebook group is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. I've been more and more active on Threads and getting a lot of traction there. Hi, Threads friends. On Threads, I'm at Daily Comedy News. Isn't that nice? On Twitter, I'm still at DCN Pod because the person who has the handle I would want tweeted once 8 billion years ago. And good luck getting anyone on Twitter to respond to you. See you tomorrow.